Hi there. Welcome to Creation Station Monthly. I'm Bob from Creation Station. This is the monthly show, so it's a lot longer than our weekly show if you're familiar with those. And every month we talk to two people who haven't met before about some creative topic. And this month it's wine. And this is one of those shows I really wish I could be at home and not be in work and I could enjoy more, but we're
Sure.
gonna make this work. So we've got 2 fun guests today. Tim Graham, who is the owner of a small wine shop down here in Fort Lauderdale, and Kenya Christensen, you're still in Kenya, where is it in Arkansas?
I'm located in Rogers, Arkansas.
Rogers, Arkansas. Okay, great. Can you
Mhm.
tell us about who you are and give us a little brief bio thing, and Tim, you jump in after.
Yeah, so I am a career artist. I've been in all kind of stages of the career as an artist, from being really successful to having no success for the last 25 years. But then in the last, I would say probably 10 years, I've really been focusing on pursuing my love of wine at the same time, taking my art to the next level. And now I work for the city of Rogers. I'm an arts and culture coordinator. Um, yeah, that's pretty much the gist of who I am and what I love to do. And even though I'm not pursuing wine full time professionally like I thought I was going to last year, um, sometimes life takes you on a different path. I still adore it and I study it every day.
Tell us about you, Tim. How did you get into going all the way to a full
Wow.
wine shop owner?
I looked into wine when I was in my 20s. I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. I just knew a little bit more about beer, and that's what I knew at the time. And then it had to go along with doing wine too. And I found out that I loved wine more than I loved beer. It's been almost 25 years now. I have worked for a lot of other big companies and such, but this is my first shop just for myself. But my wife and I own the shop, and we're here just about every day. And we have a focus on natural wine, a small little part of the wine world, but we're happy to bring it to South Florida and share wines with people that wouldn't normally um, uh, see.
Your audio broke up there a little bit, Tim, but yeah, because
Uh,
his Tim's wine shop is right down the street from the library here in down in Fort Lauderdale. For any of our local South Florida people, it's a
mhm,
really great place. Um,
yep.
let's fill me in on Tim. How did you get started in it? I mean, you had mentioned if people couldn't hear it, you started with beer, but what's the difference there
Yeah. So
between doing beer and wine?
um, I, the main difference is that it's going to be the depth of knowledge that has to be known about it, not taken away from scientific aspects and um, the just the worldwide phenomenon that is wine. The grown around the country, around the world. This is, it's a lot to take in. I know that we get to. I'm sorry, we are breaking up again, are we?
A little, yeah. Your audio is breaking up a little bit
Ah,
there with the audio and video pausing there. Yeah, try turning. Maybe you have. There we go.
okay.
Now you're back in full. Or maybe it's just your videos overwhelming it right now. Well, Tim's getting that sorted out. Can you tell
Yeah.
us? So you said going to school and practicing and doing things. So fill us in on what is that? I mean, how many people out there
So
might not even know?
yeah,
Okay, Tim's back. Gotcha.
um, yeah, I'm back. I'm back. Sorry about that. Where do we live off? Sorry.
I was saying you were starting to say about how the difference in between beer and wine and the depth of knowledge.
Yeah, and the depth of knowledge. I've not wine has been my forte for almost 20.
You're
Uh,
and I think you broke up again there, Tim. You're breaking up again there.
Sorry,
So Tim,
guys. Yeah.
try redoing or try turning off your video. See if that helps on your bandwidth there. And while you're fixing that, can you tell us about that depth of knowledge thing? Because that's exactly what you mentioned earlier. You go into school.
Yeah, so I guess it was about 8 years ago. I started just kind of studying it on my own. And then back in 2019, I went ahead and committed to the Court of Master Sommeliers Americas, and I took the intro exam. Just someone walking in off the street. I didn't have any retail knowledge, no service knowledge. It was just me being somebody that was really just a avid studier and memorizer, right? And loved to drink wine and from all over the world. And so I took it, and Doug Frost uh, was the um, was the instructor in that class. He is a master som and a master of wine, and he's just an all around, just a very nice man. And I passed the test, and then I had 3 years to take the certification exam.
Mhm.
And because of COVID hitting right in the kind of the middle of that 3 year period, that gave us a little bit of grace to take that. And so I was just about ready to fly on into Tampa and take the certification exam when I um, found out about this position with the city. And it was kind of, I was met with a fork in the road. It's like, do I go to Tampa? Do I take this
Mhm.
test? Do I really pursue, a career in wine, living in Northwest Arkansas, where there's really not yet a demand for it? Um, but at that time, I had created an experience at my art gallery that did combine art and wine together,
Mhm.
but I just didn't feel like it was enough to justify risking this position and this opportunity. So I went with being a coordinator.
Yeah.
And but that's not to say that wine in and of itself isn't a culture.
Right.
It's a growing culture. I think Tim even kind of touched on that, the phenomenon that is wine, and that there is definitely opportunity to see how culinary with wine can also be something that that people can engage with in the community. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that I go back and take that certification exam. I'll have to start over, but I could do it in my sleep, so I'm not too worried about it.
And how many people actually get that certification type stuff?
Well, the certification level has gotten a little bit less challenging. Not that I mean, it's still challenging, but it's less
If
challenging.
it takes 3 years, yeah, it's a
The
challenge.
C the CMS has well, people who have had, have the service background, or in Tim's case, have a retail background, in the industry are a lot more they have a leg up, so to speak. For somebody like me who has none of that, and that's just somebody who's passionate about it, who's decided to take it on, a little bit more challenging. And I will say that CMS, the court has made some changes to the exam process that's making it a little bit easier to study for and a little bit more attainable for people. It's not out of the possibility now to be able to take those three parts and pass them all in one fell swoop instead of having to go
Oh,
back, and take one at a time to get it, and then take it a fourth time to get all three at the same time, kind of deal. So
you just
yeah.
casually mentioned, yeah, oh, well, you could take all 3 tests at the same time. Yeah, I think that takes a good depth of knowledge to be able to pull that off that fast like that.
This is, what I found, that it just takes a lot of memorization. And in order for me personally to really focus to memorize, the geographic areas and the soil types and all of that, it's a passion, right? You have to love it. If you're really interested in it and you want to, it'll stick. And you just be in it. I've I live it every day. There's not a day that goes by. Well, I shouldn't say not a day that goes by that I don't drink some wine, but um, I'm very studious in doing so.
I'm sure Tim likes this idea of us always having a glass of wine with dinner and not having a
Definitely
day
so.
go by.
Definitely so. Yeah, it is. It's one of those things because I mean, it's not ingrained in the American culture, especially wine drinking, whether it's with dinner or even lunch, things like that. One glass of wine is just one glass of wine. It's not, you're not drinking a full bottle. You go to any other country where wine has been there for hundreds, if not thousands of years. It's just ingrained into the culture. And I think here we're so separated by the different regions that just and when I look at when I listen to Kenya and the aspects of being in Rogers, Arkansas, that is kind of like a state that is not looked at as far as wine companies. As a state that there's going to be a lot of wine drinkers there. And that's, it's not just on Arkansas. There's plenty of other states that are like that too. And I think that we do a disservice to a lot of people that we don't give them opportunities to buy really great wines for a really good price because they just happen to be in an area that somebody doesn't think that people there are going to enjoy wine.
Yeah, I was gonna say we just in the state we have a handful of wineries, and we have whereas we have a handful of wineries, we have loads of breweries because the
Yes.
way the laws are written, it makes it a lot easier to pursue beer in that
Hmm.
industry versus the wine aspect of it. I mean, this county that Rogers is in, Benton County, is finally what you would call wet and and just back in November voted in to have beer, wine, liquor sales on Sunday.
Oh man, they got into the 21st century. Good for them.
Exactly, exactly.
That's a good question. Is that on my list here? Because I never have to ask that further. So when you're in a profession like this, when leaving aside that be 21 to drink, etc. But how
Mhm.
hard is it to actually deal with licensing / sales?
Too hard.
Mhm.
You have a lot of regulatory aspects to deal with, taxation wise too, and there's just so much that you can do, for like from a retail aspect of just selling. So I can sell here, and I can do some shipment, but I can't ship across the state. I can't ship interstate to a lot of different states. Arkansas being one of them.
Is that a Florida
Yeah,
thing, or is that
It,
a
it's a little bit of Florida's thing, but it's also on the other states
yeah,
too,
I was gonna
on
say,
whether or not they allow. So like Arkansas might allow wineries from other states to ship to them, but they won't allow retailers to ship to them.
mhm,
And I can understand that aspect, especially with like the bigger retailers coming in and underselling local retail shops, and driving the prices down. I can understand that. But when products not even available in a state, not being able to order something from out of state is just really a disservice to the consumer.
yeah, I was gonna say that I use wine.com sometimes to
Hmm.
get wine brought in because they seem to be able to ship. But even some of the wineries can't ship here. I've learned, and especially out in Napa, there's several out there clubs or whatnot wineries that I belong to, and I have to drive into Missouri to pick it up
huh?
and drive
Yeah.
it across.
A
Hmm.
little bit harder for me to drive to a state line.
Oh yeah, yeah. You can't. No, yeah, it'd be a
just
lot.
go,
Yeah,
just go out into the ocean and past the international marker. We'll get
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll,
you.
we'll float the boat out there or something like that. So here's the traditional question I ask everybody who's on the show is does how you express yourself being creative in this field, how does it change over the years? And you both come at this from really different starting points. So to fill me in on that, where does that actually start, Tim, of you getting that as a teenager, as an adult? Where does that creativity start to say, hey, yeah, I want to do wine, but then where did it change to be, I want a store owner, rather than
Yeah.
Bob likes to have a good bottle of wine and have a glass of wine with dinner, but I would never dream of opening a store.
Yeah. For me, I did not grow up with wine. My family were not drinkers. Because of religious aspects, it wasn't, it was into my 20s. And like I said, I just kind of I lucked into it. And when I lucked into it, the first person that hired me, they handed me 2 cases of wine and 3 books and said, go try these wines, read as much as possible, and try to come back in a couple of days, because it was like right before Thanksgiving too. Throw me into the fire. I will dance. I love it. There was a thing about history and science and anthropology, culture aspects, societal. I love all that. And so I was looking at it as a macro, um, uh, from far away, the whole thing about wine. And then over the years, as I've, developed like my palate and the jobs that I've done over time, working for other people, running other people's wine shops, I finally figured out what I wanted to do. And so when we moved down to Florida, I knew that I wanted to open up a wine shop, and I knew that I wanted to focus on natural, low intervention wines, because I do feel that these wines are not only better for the environment, I also think that they're better for the people that are buying them. And many of the people, we call ourselves small wine shop, and it's not just because our space is a smaller space. It's because a lot of the people that we're working with, that we're selling, are smaller, family-owned wineries, that might only produce maybe like 5,000 cases a year, which is almost nothing in the grand scheme of things.
Talk to me about that, can you?
So
How did you get into this? I mean, I can't imagine, as Tim was saying, the whole culture and everything like that. Fill me in, as an African American woman, how many people are like, no, you can't do wine?
Right. Well, a lot, because we represent less than 1% of the industry. And I think a lot of that has to do with accessibility and to wine, um, and the opportunity to try different types. It's not an inexpensive habit. It's
Yeah.
actually a very expensive. It's a very expensive thing to get into, and to collect and to learn about. And I've just been. It comes down to budget and deciding what I wanted to spend my money on. There are a lot of other things that young people, in their 20s and 30s are buying. Meanwhile, I was buying cases of wine, and not cheap wine either, but really studying wine. And I think the moment that hit me, that struck me, that said that I want to do this, and that I can see that, well, as you mentioned, the art in it and the creativity, is when you start pairing it with food and you create an experience. So it's not just a bottle or a glass of wine, it becomes an entire experience, and it's indelibly marked in your brain, much like I think of Nora Ephron, who wrote the book Love, Loss, and What I Wore. And it talks about women remembering what they had on in these certain points in their life, in these life-changing moments,
Mhm.
some of them seemingly small, but it's marked, right? And we remember what we had on. Well, that's how I feel about wine. I remember the wine I drank with a certain meal, and I'm constantly chasing after that. And what is more, I'm trying now to share that with other people and teach them how to do it, so that they can experience this moment where you have this creative meal, but now you've put wine with it and you just took
Mhm.
it to out of the stratosphere. I mean, it's just, oh wow, and you'll forever remember it. And so that's the thing that gets me going and keeps me wanting to learn more and to share that with other people.
What's the piece of equipment that both of you think of when you're thinking about wine?
Storage, as far as I'm concerned. You know,
Okay, talk to me about that. Tell us,
making
how does this all work out?
Well, investing in proper storage of wine, especially the ones that if you're going to try to collect them and age them and study them, maybe you're not necessarily holding a bottle of wine to age. Like I have some that I've been holding on to for about 10 years. That's about as, but then there's some that I've bought that are very old and they were in the drink now window. And I want to make sure that until I'm able to get them open to drink them, that I'm storing them properly. And so investing in that, I think is probably the one thing that I really focused on a few years ago was to make sure that I had ample storage and that I was doing it properly and just taking care of those babies.
How about you, Tim? What equipment you got?
I think the most important piece of equipment for me is the internet. To
Oh,
be
yeah, that's a
able,
good one. Mm.
yeah, to be able to communicate with customers and with winemakers, because I'm trying to tell their story. I'm not telling my story.
Right.
I'm telling a winemaker story, and I want our customers to see how I see. So see that, this is somebody that is working by hand usually. And it is a year-long process for them. And that what they do is a labor of love. This isn't a commodity. This is actually a piece of art that they're putting
Yes, it's a
into a
piece of
bottle.
art. Yeah.
And so I would say that is my key is that, this is quite different than, um, you know, uh, in the 90s, when I was getting my start, there were all the books that I was reading, most of them were 10, 20 years old at that time. And they were kind of already outdated. But now I can go on to any winery. I can go to any of my importers. Find out the newest bits of news from any of them at any time.
No, that's great, Tim. I'm so glad you said that you're telling their stories because I think that lends itself to the overall experience as well, to know the story behind what you're drinking and then you pair it with
Hmm.
the food or even if it's just pair it with an occasion.
Yeah, and because we consume so much stuff that we don't know where it comes from, whether it's through our ears, through our eyes, through our mouth, and I just want to be able to give back to for people to have something to not only think about where they're getting something that they consume, but the people behind it and what they bring to it.
That is okay. And see, like I've got my wine opener tie on today. I was going with that kind of equipment, and you guys just blew me out totally out of left field there. So now fill me in on that last part of the equipment. What's the dream piece for you? What's that ultimate goal that if somebody could wave the magic wand and give you anything, is it what? Besides
Oof.
money to buy older, better wines.
Well, not all older wines are better. I mean, it really depends. I truly believe that it depends on the person, and their palate and what they look for in a wine. I equal opportunity. I will drink just about anything. But younger wines are different than older wines. Some wines age better, things like that. I think for me, the ability to, I know we don't want to say just limited amounts of money, but the ability to travel
I was
and to
exactly.
go places. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think having that ability to go to a place because it's different than just like reading about it. If you go to a wine region and you put your hands down into the soil and you smell everything else around you at the same time, and you talk to the winemakers, you feel the climate in the air, things like that. You get a better sense and an understanding of how that wine is made.
Yes, I was gonna say if it would be an open-ended plane ticket to anywhere, just perpetual travel voucher. Just where do you want to go today? Because
Yes,
that's
exactly.
because it's so true. Exactly what you said is Tim is like when you go and you smell the air,
Hmm.
you smell the air and you taste the water and you just experience that.
Yeah.
You're picking up the terroir of the wine, it's just yeah, you gotta be submersed in it. I know it's one thing, like my husband, he loves Napa Valley so, so much. And we open up a great bottle of Napa Cab and he's just like, "Oh my God, this tastes like Napa."
Yeah.
You could taste the way, you can taste the air, you could taste the dirt, and it's just in it.
Yeah,
And
yeah, there's
very
so many
special.
wines like that that you
Mhm.
taste where it actually comes from, and versus just tasting a flavor profile or a grape.
Mhm.
And you're going to find that, in, like from a Napa Cab, you're going to find that there is a difference between a very much a mass-produced Napa Cab versus a
Mhm.
very small production Napa Cab, and the
Yep.
quality in between the two. So,
Yeah, yeah. I was even thinking about something as, like the dust out there
in
in the,
Rutherford, yeah.
in Rutherford, or
Hmm.
even a little bit even more grittier in Texas.
Oh
You
yes.
get like get a Tempranillo from Texas, and it's
Hmm.
just, oh my God, it's very
I
distinctive.
did not. I had no idea they did that there.
Yep, Texas High Plains.
You
Texas
guys are
has
gonna have
some
to come
great
and
wine.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, these were former like peanut and cotton farms
Mhm.
that there has been a lot of work into helping farmers change over into growing grapes and using grapes more as a cash crop instead. Texas is like one of those areas that for the longest time, they were producing pretty much just French wine styles, so much like Bordeaux, and that just doesn't work there because it's way too hot.
Mhm.
And it's more of a Mediterranean climate. And so then, a lot of they started working with things, and so things like Tempranillo, Mourvedre, Viognier for whites. All of these grapes that are usually grown around the Mediterranean Sea do
Mhm.
a lot better in Texas now.
Yeah.
And there are some really good winemakers. You just don't know about them because
Yeah.
it's Texas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly what I'm thinking now. It's like I think I
Mhm.
need to like get a
You
map
need a yes
and
to
just
go.
start saying, which states don't have wineries at this
We even
point.
have, I mean, even Arkansas has it. It's
Mhm.
the St. Mary's AVA, and Altus, Post Family Wines, lovely
Mhm.
family, been in the family for generations, and it has a distinctive uh, terroir there too that
Nice.
it when I know Champerson. If pour it in a glass, I drink it. I know exactly. And not everybody does it the way that it's done down here. There's
Mhm.
other Missouri makes it, but Missouri grows it and has winemakers that use it, but it's not the same.
Mhm.
It's
And
No.
not the
now, so between the two of you, tell me what's the difference in between. We've been talking about grapes and wines and things like that. I know we have a winery down here in South Florida that does a lot of fruits. They do a blueberry, they do carambola, things like that. What's the difference in between that kind of stuff? Is that on that creative process? Where do you draw a line between this is wine and this is something else?
I mean, it's wine.
Okay.
It is. It is. There's
Yeah.
it's fermented juice
Mhm.
from a fruit that is
Mhm.
being used. Now, whether or not you think that it is wine as far as like the flavor profile, because of what you think wine is, that is going to be on you.
Okay.
You're not going to get the flavor profiles. You're not going to get the terroir as we talk about the aspect of the growing environment of grapes. It's just not going to be there. It's not going to have the complexity to it. Many of like the fruit wines are just going to have they're going to have a lot of sugar, and when you're adding yeast to them and the yeast eats the sugar, there's just so much that it can actually eat. So they're never really going to be fermented completely dry. They're always going to have a bit of sweetness to them at the same time. But I'm never going to knock somebody's yum. If they, what they like is what they like. There was a grape that was made specifically for Florida, the Blanc du Bois grape, which is a hybrid grape that was able to withstand the humidity of the state. Not a lot of people grow it. It is grown in Texas, and I've had some really good white wines made from that grape.
I'm hearing I need my next wine trip to be Texas now.
Just fly into Austin and then get a car and go out to Fredericksburg, and you'll have fun.
Yep. Or you can even fly into San Antonio and drive over.
Yeah. That sounds really awesome. So so I want to flip over to something else, because we always talk about how do you make this creative thing your career. And my advice to you, or my thing is, what advice would you give someone who's starting out trying to do this? Who's that person, whether that's older or younger, who's like, well, of course I like wine with my dinner. Oh, maybe I can make this a career. These two did. What's your advice to them?
Start
you
early.
or me first. Yeah, start early. I think, we were talking about before just the accessibility. I think that the accessibility is getting wider. I've been fighting the elitist aspect of wine for such a long time. I think that there are doors that are closed to way too many people, and we leave so many people out from enjoying wine. There's many different factors on that, but I think being able to have but I mean, you're going to have to do your homework. There's not going to be anybody to hold your hand.
You broke up again on the audio there, Jim. We heard you have to do your homework, and then you kind of broke up on the audio there.
And
Kenya, you go. Well, Tim's getting this sorted out again.
Yeah.
Let's get you. What do you think?
Well,
Just to get started off there.
Yeah, just to kind of maybe play off of what he was talking about as far as doing your homework. I mean, that's a large part of it. It's a lot of study. And when I say start early, I mean, I would don't wait like I did until I was in my 30s. I wish I had started sooner, and had I done that, I could have, really made it into a career. Not to say that at 47 I can't continue to pursue it, but I've lost so much time. And so if anybody's interested in a young person that really enjoys it and likes to create the idea that, or the notion that they can be creative in this industry and sell experiences and give experiences and teach people things, and that's start now. Start while you're young and you're willing. Your brain can absorb all the information, or that you have the circumstances to travel the world and experience.
And I know Tim was starting to talk about taking notes, and he mentioned earlier being handed, here's some books, here's some wine, go take some notes.
Yeah.
What do you take from that? What do you mean by taking notes? If somebody out there is like, well, I like this wine, that's
Write down. Well, I know what I did personally is I started to keep it was like a journal. I kept a journal and I wrote down everything about what I was consuming, and even to the point of how it made me feel when what did it make me think of? What did it taste like? Even the things that even if I thought it was wrong, if I was just taking a stab in the dark, I kept a journal of all those things. And then I would go back, and every time I tried that varietal from some other winery or some other part of the world, I wrote down what changed and just kept referring back to it.
When
over
you
the
say
years.
varietal, let's fill that in for other people who
So
don't know.
varietal in like the type of grape, like
Okay, so what Tim was mentioning
Merlot.
earlier about the different types. Okay,
Yeah, like the difference between like a Chardonnay and a Chenin Blanc or Sauvignon Blanc, or in the red varietals of Pinot Noir, a Cabernet, or a Merlot. The difference. Those are varietals, and then but even within of all the Cabernets, I would taste, or Cabernet Sauvignon, I would taste. I would be like, okay, how is this one different from the other one? What year was this? Then I'd go and I'd look up and what was the climate like in that particular area during that year, and how did that impact the way this tastes? And I just started keeping that little journal and studying it, referring
sounds
back to it,
suspiciously like homework.
it is like homework, and it doesn't matter the price point of the wine, right? I would write that down if it was a $5 bottle or a $300 bottle. I wrote it down.
Nice. I know my wife had, when we were on a trip to Italy, it was a time it clicked in her mind about liking wine. She was, "You've been giving me bad wine." I'm like, "No, I didn't. You just didn't like what we had, and now we know what you like."
That's funny.
That's just the thing. Did we get Tim's audio back yet?
I think we are. Are we okay? Because I'm getting y'all here.
Yeah, no, still all wonky on us, Tim, for the audio. There you go. Mute,
How
unmute.
about now?
That sounds better. Try. No, I think your audio there died again on you,
Yeah.
Tim. I think it's the back room of the store. See, it just wants him to be out front.
It is. It does want me to be out front. Looks like.
There we go. Perfect now.
Okay.
So we were filling in there on the getting started and building your career.
Mm-hmm.
Go for it, Tim. Tell us. So how to get somebody started in the career?
Okay. All right.
Because you mentioned taking notes.
I would seek out accreditation through the Court of Masters.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that something that's nationwide, by the way, or is that something like Florida, Arkansas? Everybody has their own.
You can register. You can register online.
Okay.
And there are classes all over the country. You just have to pick which closest to you.
Okay, because I know that there's a lot of talk recently about different specializations and certifications and everything being there.
There he is.
And here's Tim back. Think he's there?
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. Y'all are breaking up on me now too.
Oh, okay.
I'm getting broken up. Yeah.
Okay.
The internet has been really bad for me today. Sorry.
No worries about that. But what you've got for us, Tim? Tell us what your final bit of advice, so we can wrap you up here. Tell us what your piece of advice is to someone who is just trying to figure out where this fits into their life, because wine seems to be something, like you said, it's not part of American culture as much, but it's part of most of the world's culture. So how does this whole creativity process fit into everybody's life?
I think you have to be adventuresome, and trying new things all the time. Don't get into the same rut. I know it's way too easy to like go into a store and just remember that you like Cabernet or Pinot Noir or Chardonnay. Go to smaller stores and talk to the people behind the products and ask them like, "Hey, I like this. What else would I probably like in this sort of flavor profile?" And a good shop will be able to tell you, 10 different ways to go from that one grape that you already like. So be adventuresome. Go with your cuisine, and like if you're having something for dinner, go with where the cuisine comes from. If it's from Italy, what part of Italy, and go with a wine from that region.
Mm-hmm. I was going to also add, when you talk about accreditation real quick, the other one that is popular is the wine Spirit Education Trust. So the WSET has certification. It's also 4 levels, and it's something they can study. It doesn't really cover the same the service aspect as much as what the court does, but it's definitely into the wine. Oh yeah, there you go. There's
Uh-huh.
some
Yeah, I was like, wait, I know there's pictures on here of food from both of your sites.
yeah, food and definitely wine. Yeah, and a little bit of travel and a little bit of art. It's just that's I think they all go together.
Yeah. Yeah, and the WSCT, that's my accreditation, and that's more of the business side of wine, whereas the court is more focused on service, and along with the business. Um, I think that if you're looking for just a greater expanse of knowledge, I recommend the WSET. If you're looking to be in the service industry, definitely go with the court. I think that it's much better for that side as well. But I don't think that you could really go wrong with either one of them.
I am bringing up that whole WSET certifications. Huh.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. So there's let's throw that on there for someone just in case you want to see what that looks like. There's a whole wine catalog there for you, whole catalog of courses and everything there to take. That's an interesting idea. Do I really want to take more classes?
And you can do a lot of those online. So
okay. Testing. Kenya, how does that testing work? I know you got to get out of here, Kenya, because you've got another thing you got to go jump to. Thank you very much for being here with us, Kenya. And I'm going to hit Tim up to explain about how this testing works.
Okay.
Here with us. And we'll make sure that all your stuff is up on the site there for you, Kenya, okay?
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate
anytime.
And it was nice to meet you, Tim.
He's coming back in, I think. He's going to try. You jump off, Kenya. We'll see.
Okay. All right.
Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There we go. Did we get you back in, Tim? And no, I think we lost Tim there again. So we're going to end it here for everybody. Sorry for all the audio problems today. But I will put all of the show notes in there for you so you can reach out to either of our 2 guests today about this. And we look forward to talking to you all next month. Have a great day.